Welcome. You have reached review time with Imperial. Today's review will be A Fall from Grace. Let's get into it. So, A Fall from Grace is through the channels of Tyler Perry, one of the Tyler Perry movie at Tyler Perry Studios. This was actually a good film. A lot of people have been talking about it, so I thought I'd give it a shot to see what everybody's talking about. And written by Tyler Perry, and what this movie is about: seniors who get taken advantage of. And I'm not sure in the walks of life and what age you are, but there is a lot. There is a demographic of elderly and seniors, that population, who are not protected, and whatever they did in their younger life or whatever, they've been detached from their families, and detached from their families, they're left out here fending for themselves, where someone who could be manipulative and conniving can come into their life and take advantage of them. And so this movie is pretty much of a woman that's in her senior age, and her name is actress Crystal Fox. She plays as Grace. There is Felicia Rashad. She plays as Sarah, which is supposed to be the friend of Grace, and Brisha Webb, who's the public defender named Jasmine. And there's McCabe Brooks. He played in the movie with Tiffany Haddish and Tinka Sumter. I forgot what that movie was called, but he played in that movie. So he plays as Shannon. And Tyler Perry, of course, he does a cameo as Rory, which is the boss of Jasmine. And so in this case, it starts off Jordan Bryant, actor played as by the name of Matthew Law. He starts off, he's talking to this woman, and she's on a ledge and trying to talk her down off the ledge. And you just hear her screaming, basically saying, "I don't have nothing." And the helicopter comes, spread the light on her, and she jumps. And so he comes home to his wife, Jasmine, and he's distraught pretty much. And, what he just witnessed. And then she, in return, the next day, she goes to work. So she's given a case with Grace, where she's being tried for killing her husband. And they have pictures of a murder scene and everything, but uh, they have pictures of a murder scene, no body. And so she's pretty much a public defender. They just go on there to get her to do a plea agreement. And so as she go in there to do a plea agreement, she's speaking to Grace, and Grace pretty much just said, "Hey, I just convict me. I'm a admit to that I did it." So it kind of touched Jasmine, and she pretty much was just gonna go through with it. But Grace said something to her when she came in. She said people looked at her. She got the reputation. She's just going to get you the plea agreement, and she's the worst of the worst. Is all she do is go get a plea. So that kind of touched her, and it wanted to look deeper. So she met with Grace's friend Sarah, played by Felicia Rashad, and she pretty much was like, she wished that, she kind of feel like responsible, because she kind of alluded Grace to get back in the game of dating again after she was divorced. So Grace was married to a successful, I guess he had a mortgage financial company, something like that, and she caught her husband cheating on her, and she didn't fight in the divorce, and she pretty much let him take everything. She worked for the bank, and she struggled, and she got herself back together, and she paid off her house. And so with all that being said, she went. Jasmine went back to Grace, visiting her in jail, pretty much saying, "Tell me what happened." Like basically, I'll fight for you. So the story begins, and she starts to tell her whole story on everything. And she met this young guy, and she was attracted to him, and he knew too much. See, I watch a lot of movies, so I was picking up on certain things before they kind of played out. So he knew too much about her before he knew about, like, he knew all her touching points that would bring her close to him, because he, as long as he showed interest or whatever. So uh her friend was pushing her the whole time. Girl, you gonna go with him? Why not you? Go ahead, and pushing her to keep staying involved with this young man. So you always hear about these stories that, I mean, I don't know nobody personally, but you hear about these stories where male or female, younger male or female, gets with an older man or woman, and befriend them only to get their finances, because from the male side, he might be thinking, I can still grab the young girls, you know what I'm saying, and come around his friends with, that's his age or his family, with this real young woman, and instantly everybody looking at it like, she only with you for your dough, bro. You know what I'm saying? So then you get the woman who's got this young man. What is his interest in you? Like, what, you know what I'm saying? What is his interest? Same difference or whatever. Now somebody might come and say, well, that's not true to everybody. That standard is not true to everybody, and everybody's not um, always going to be there just for people finances. You might see some situations where people do work out. They really are into that person for whatever reason. So we're not gonna say everybody, but it is. You always hear these stories. Nevertheless, back to the story. This young man had all her touching points. Um, then she finally gave in. He went to church with her and everything. She finally gave in, and when she gave in, he proposed to her, and then he had relations with her, socked it to her. She hasn't felt that way. So you got women and men that may get to a certain age and be out the loop of the dating scene and everything. So that's a void of, like, combative companionship. That's a void where someone that's not getting that, if they find something that's like giving them some type of companionship, they might go in with blinders just to get that feeling, and that's what she was doing. She was getting the feeling she ain't felt in a long time. So it was hitting on all cylinders. He proposed to her. She went in blinded, and they started having relationships. Uh, no sooner than she got they got married. She came in. She was called into work saying that she falsified documents to and get money embezzled over like 300 something $1,000, and she lost her job. One night she came home. One night she woke up, and he wasn't in the bed. So when she went to approach her, like, who you talking to? He downstairs talking on the phone. He pretty much straight told her, like, yo, hey, I don't like to be questioned, and don't approach me on that type time. So he's setting the tone. So that was a strike. Then she got fired, and she was looking for him, and she got fired, and he wasn't answering the phone. And finally he came home, and she was there with her friend Sarah, and he pretty much was like standoffish, and she was like, who, you was with another woman or whatever. So pretty much at that point, she was like, told her friend to leave. Her friend was like, nah, I'm gonna stay here with you. And then pretty much he he had went and told her he was out with doing a photo shoot, and that's what he took the people to where he proposed to her at, or whatever. So she kind of forgave him. Like, she not forgave him. She really that calmed her down, and she was like, "Oh man, I'm sorry. I got fired. Somebody got identity theft on me. Blah blah blah." So I forgot a moment. When she first met him at an art gallery, he had this like African medallion that kind of like stole her mind, and he had it or whatever. So nevertheless, fast forward back to the story. She went into the bank, and she was told she remortgaged her house after her house was paid off, and now her bank account was overdrafted up to over $4,000, and she remortgaged her house for 300 something thousand. And so she's looking like, this is not me. She's tripping. So she was told that it was notarized and given an address. So they put the address out there, and then she went to the address. It was just this an abandoned house with a bunch of mail there. So she looked on the camera, and when she looked on the bank's camera, it was her husband. He went in there and he forged her name and did all that and remortgaged her house. So when he came home, she pretty much when she came home, she approached him and pretty much like, look at the video she sent you. You did this to me. So he pretty much at that point, he knew he was caught. He basically said he did it, he did it because he needed money to pay off something, and pretty much, it's nothing she could do. He's her husband, and he's entitled to the money. So he was real bold and pretty much like, well, it's whatever. So he's setting the tone, and she was crushed. She was hurt. And fast forward, let's go back, rewind. When Jasmine went and interviewed Sarah for the first time, she when she was in Sarah's house, an old lady popped out of nowhere. Actress Cicely Tyson was playing this character, popped out of nowhere and pretty much hurry up and walked away when she popped out of nowhere. So it was like real weird, and Sarah rushed Jasmine out the house. And it was like real weird. So you already know something was off with that. But that was early in the movie, so it doesn't really touch base on that again. But you already know that happened, so you know that moment was off. So fast forward, he's real bold in the house doing whatever. So she comes home one day, and he's in there pretty much having relations, having sex with another woman. But this is a young girl, and she was like, your mom came in here? Or whatever. So she's a prisoner in her own home. She went to the cops. They said there's nothing you could do. They can't force them out or whatever. She went to a lawyer. The lawyer said it's gonna cost $10,000 for her to represent her. She don't got no money. She's going through the motions, and she's at her wit's end. She got a son. You don't see him. You see him. They had a close relationship till he got married and he went on with his life. So the mom was pretty left to fend for herself because you don't see nothing with the son. And then, boom, she comes home. He's talking crap to her. He's sitting in the seat and basically telling her, you was stupid. You know what I mean? You was gullible. I got you. I gave you everything you need. I'm entitled to that money. I don't want that. You know what I mean? Basically, I sexed you up and down. I made you feel good. I deserve that money. So she grabbed a baseball bat and bashed him all in his head. Headshots. So she dragged him and threw him down the steps. And she drove off. She called her friend Sarah and pretty much told Sarah that she killed him or whatever. So at that moment, Jasmine's like, okay, we're gonna try the case because basically we gotta prove it's reasonable doubt. So the case starts, they go back and forth, they're doing their thing, and so when they brought Sarah on the stand, they asked Sarah about her friend. She asked little general questions or whatever. She know Grace loves her friend, and she ain't gonna want her friend to go down or whatever. So Jasmine asked Sarah a general question, but the lawyers pretty much said, "Well, when did you call? Didn't you speak on the phone?" And she was like, "Yeah, we spoke about 15 minutes." But the lawyer said the phone record said it was like 2 minutes. So that was like a contradiction right there. So they pretty much forced Sarah to say, uh, forced Sarah to say that Grace did tell her that she killed him. So at that moment, uh, Jasmine's boss, Rory, played by Tyler Perry, telling her like, you let this, you let it go. You wasn't just supposed to let it go. You were supposed to rebuttal or whatever. So that was working on Jasmine's mind all night long. Her um, husband or boyfriend, he pretty much was like, you know, I didn't say nothing when Rory was getting at you because the truth hurts, but it can better you. So she was like, nah, like you supposed to say something, or whatever. And he was like, nah, you do gotta step up, and you can't just run for everything. You gotta step up and fight. So when she came to court the next day, she pretty much told the judge like, hey, I need to try Sarah again. I gotta ask her some questions, and the judge said, well, the defense rested yesterday. We can't go back. You could do an appeal. And then she didn't. She went against the judge, and she pretty much at that point, the judge said he gonna have her in contempt in court and send her to jail, and she pretty much went against the grain. So they put her in jail and told Rory and his team to finish the trial, and with their closing argument. So pretty much, Jasmine's in jail, and her and Rory had back and forth, and she pretty much told Rory, F you, you know what I'm saying? This is what you wanted anyway. And so when the jurors read the verdict, when they convicted her as guilty, everybody was upset. And Sarah was there with her son, with Grace's son, consoling him while he was upset. His mom just got convicted. And she drudged the bailiff off so she could tell her son it's okay, it's okay. So when she went to look at her son, she looked at Sarah, and she seen the same African medallion on Sarah that she seen on her husband when the first time she met him. So everything started flashing in her head. That's how this joker know all these things. So she didn't say anything. She went back to her jail cell and pretty much said, I want to speak to my lawyer. Meanwhile, Jasmine husband comes and visit her and pretty much tell her, look here, you need to apologize to the judge so we can get out. So on the way home, she apologized to the judge. She got out. On the way home, she said she wanted to stop and speak to Sarah because basically I know she's distraught of this, what took place or whatever. So he drops her off and goes back to work. So she's walking to Sarah's crib, and in the process of seeing Sarah going to Sarah's house, that old lady that we seen in the beginning of the movie, Cicely Tyson actress, she comes walking down the street talking about, I need to get home. I need to get home. And she like, no, your home is this way. She's like, no, I need to get home. I need to get home. So she walks her back to the place, and the door was wide open, and then she sits her down and said, let me get you some water. She said, and then the old lady is thinking now what her house was. So she remembered her house number. And she said Sycamore Street. That was the house that Jasmine went to. That not Jasmine went to, that Grace went to. That was an old abandoned house, but Grace told Jasmine that's the address that, that was given to her. So now Jasmine is thinking all the things that's playing in her head. Oh, snap. So you heard this big boom, and then the old lady said, I'm hungry. But before that, the old lady started mentioning she don't want to die like this. She don't want to die like the other people died. And then she named the name of the lady that Jasmine's husband had tried to talk off the ledge from there. She named that lady. and she showed her a picture of the lady's art because she said she was a good photographer. And she said, yeah, that's her. So now everything playing in Jasmine's head. She heard this boom. She said, they hungry. And so Jasmine goes. Now, what Jasmine should have did at that moment was call whoever, her husband or 911 or whoever, but she didn't. She goes and she traveling down in this spooky looking basement. And somebody grabbed her at first, and she looked and she seen all these women chained, elderly women chained to a wall, and then somebody goes and grabs her, and you instantly can see it's Grace's husband Shannon with bandages all on his head. But the way she beat him in the head with a bat, I don't know how the heck he's still alive. But nevertheless, this is a movie. He was still alive, and so they at that time they at that time they he captured her, and then Sarah came home, and when Sarah came home, the old lady was sitting at the table, and she said, I don't want to be hurt or whatever. So at that moment, she knew somebody was there, and she yelled out, "Did you get her?" And then she came downstairs, and she pretty much looked at Jasmine like, you know, you was in, you know, you snooping in other people's business, and this is Sarah, which is Grace's friend or whatever. So at this moment, they did a background on Sarah, and they came up with some criminal activity. So the husband is out frisking somebody, and somebody hit him on his little operator thing and pretty much said, yo, check your computer. He looked at his computer, and it's Sarah with some criminal background. So he just dropped his wife off over there. So now he's zooming over there. He comes there, and he pretty much said, I need backup. So he did report that in before he knocked on the door. And when he asked, Sarah answered the door and whatever, and he asked her, you know, my wife, I dropped my wife off over here. Is she here? He like, I never seen your wife. And she pretty much closed the door on her. So he calls his wife's phone, but the wife had left her phone on the kitchen counter so he could hear the phone. So he comes in and kicks the door in. Where's my wife? And then, you know, she tried to fight him, and he turned his back, pushed her out the way, and she hit him in the head with a frying pan. And he pretty much overpowered her and, you know, put the cuffs on her. So after that, he told her to stay there. Of course, you know, she ain't going to stay there. So nevertheless, from there, he goes into the spooky basement, and he goes into the room where his wife is tied up. And Shannon comes and pretty much try to put him in the dope fiend chokehold. And, you know, they get to tussling. So Jasmine, pretty much at this moment, she gets up and breaks out of the chair. And the gun fell from her husband. The gun fell. She picked the gun up, and then she shot Shannon twice. And from that moment, of course, it shows all the cops coming in. Basically, Shannon and Sarah was mother and son, and they've been running this for over 25 years. They've been running this game, manipulating women and getting all the women that was in the basement chained up was women that they were getting their Social Security money. But these women was disappeared from their families and everything. So it was getting their Social Security money, and they were manipulating people, conning people, and he was getting women like Grace. And Grace's conviction ended up getting overturned, and she got released. And then they stated pretty much at the end of the movie, like the reporters came and said, you know, how does it feel for it to be over? And she pretty much said, it's not over. And then it flips to Sarah's character, where now she done moved on, because they said they never knew what happened with the finances they've been using all this time. So she done moved on. It shows her pretty much get ready to be the nanny or caretaker for somebody else that's elderly, less wealthy. So it was a cool twist, good movie, a lot of truth in this movie, a lot of self-reflection. I would advise men and women to watch the movie. You know, because this even though this is from the female perspective of things, there is a male perspective also that happens to elderly men all the time, and we see it. You see some rich whatever, and he got this young looking whatever. You like automatic. You like, man, that's for the money. And a lot of them men already probably know what it is. He don't care. He like, at the end of my years, this is what it is. So, other than that, in my 4-star rating system, I'm gonna give this movie a 3 out of 4 stars. I watch a lot of movies, so I kind of picked up what was going on, but it played out good. It's still a decent watch. I'm going to give it 3 out of 4 stars. Subscribe to this channel. Like this video. Thank you for watching the whole video and, getting a review. Till next time.